back to Speaking with Confidence, the podcast that helps you build the soft skills that lead to real results: communication, storytelling, public speaking, and showing up with confidence in every conversation that counts. I'm Tim Newman, a recovering college professor turned communication coach, and I'm thrilled to guide you on a journey to becoming a powerful communicator. I've talked and posted before about the power of networking and providing value to others. There are two types of people when you talk about networking. You're either a connector or a climber. There's truly nothing wrong with either, but what if there was a third option? The connector-climber hybrid is truly the place to build your network and influence. You know how it goes. You come back from a conference or networking event, you empty your pockets, and there are dozens of little cardboard rectangles with names you barely remember. You met all these people, you did the networking thing, but if you're honest, you didn't actually connect with anyone. So you put the cards together, you put a rubber band around them, and you put them in the drawer. You know that drawer. The one where business cards and connections go to die. That feeling, that gap between collecting contacts and building real relationships, is what I call fake networking. And if you're relying on this approach, it's not just ineffective, it's actively damaging your career progression. Most professionals are stuck in a transactional mindset, treating networking like a numbers game instead of a relationship building process. The problem isn't that you're not meeting enough people. The problem is how you're approaching these connections. In the next few minutes, we're going to expose why this exchange mentality fails, identify the two most common types of fake networking that destroy your credibility, and give you a practical framework for building genuine professional relationships that actually advance your career. The fundamental mistake most people make is treating networking as a transaction rather than an investment. They walk into a room thinking, what can I get from these people? Instead of, what value can I bring to these conversations? And it's this subtle shift in mindset that creates an immediate barrier to building trust. When you approach someone with a transactional mindset, people sense it. They can tell when you're scanning the room for someone more important while they're talking to you. They notice when you're only asking questions that serve your own agenda. This, what can you do for me, thinking, puts the other person on defense, making genuine connection impossible. The psychological impact is significant. Transactional approaches signal that you see people as a means to an end rather than as individuals worth knowing. And this damages your professional reputation over time, as people begin to categorize you as someone who only shows up when they need something. The real-world consequences are clear: limited opportunities, missed collaborations, and a reputation that follows you from company to company. What's fascinating is that the most successful networkers I've worked with approach conversations completely different. They lead with curiosity rather than agenda. They ask about challenges rather than opportunities. They focus on understanding rather than being understood. This isn't about just being nice. It's about building the foundation for relationships that yield professional dividends down the line. There are two specific patterns I see repeatedly that reveal when someone is engaged in fake networking. Recognizing these in your own behavior is the first step towards fixing them. The first step is what I call the self-serving connection. This is when someone connects with you purely for immediate personal gain. I'm sure you've experienced this. You're having what seems like a genuine conversation, and then suddenly they pivot to their real agenda. So I notice you know the hiring manager at Company X. Could you put in a good word for me? The entire interaction becomes transparently transactional. And say that 3 times fast. The damage here goes beyond just an awkward moment. When you treat someone as a stepping stone, you communicate that you value them for what they can do for you and not for who they are. This creates a reputation as a taker, someone who burns bridges after crossing them. And in professional circles, this reputation spreads quickly, and soon you'll find doors closing that otherwise would have been open. The second type is even more common, and this is the ghost follow-up. And this happens when you make a promise during a conversation but never deliver. Such as, I'll send you that article. I'll make that introduction. Let's grab coffee next week. And then silence. You might think you're being polite by making these offers, but failing to follow through does more harm than good. When you ghost someone after promising follow-up, you're demonstrating unreliability. You're showing that your word doesn't mean much. And in a professional context where trust is currency, this is devastating. People will hesitate to recommend you, include you in projects, or share opportunities because they can't count on you to deliver. And the cumulative effect of these small betrayals of trust can stall a career for years. Both patterns stem from the same root cause, viewing networking as a series of transactions rather than relationship building. The self-serving connection is about taking value without giving, while the ghost follow-up is about promising value without delivering. And both reveal a fundamental misunderstanding of how professional relationships actually work. And this brings us to the core principle that separates effective networkers from everyone else. And to understand why fake networking fails and genuine connection succeeds, we need to look at leadership expert John Maxwell's work, specifically the law of the lid. Maxwell's law of the lid states that your leadership ability determines your effectiveness. In simpler terms, your ability to achieve results is capped by your ability to lead and influence others. Now apply that to networking. Your ability to build a powerful, supportive professional network is directly limited by your leadership capability. Think about it this way. Leadership at its essence is influence. It's the ability to move people, to gain their trust, to inspire action. And when you approach networking with a transactional, what's in it for me mindset, your influence is zero. People see through it and they disengage. But when you approach it as a leader, when you focus on adding value, understanding needs, and building genuine rapport, your influence grows. You become someone people want to be connected to. The connection is undeniable. Takers have no real influence because their relationships are built on sand. They collapse under the slightest pressure. But givers, on the other hand, build trust. They create networks that are resilient and supportive. Your network isn't just a list of contacts. It's the ceiling for your career potential. If your network is shallow and transactional, your lid is low. If it's deep and built on mutual respect, your lid is high. You can only rise as far as your relationships will lift you. So how do you make this shift from connector or climber to the connector-climber hybrid? It requires a deliberate two-part strategy that flips the traditional networking script on its head. First, you need to know your value proposition. Before you walk into any room or send any connection request, get crystal clear on what you uniquely bring to the table. And this isn't about your job title. It's about your specific skills, your knowledge base, your resources, or even your perspective. What problems can you help solve? What insights can you share? You can't offer value if you don't know what you have to offer. And second, this is the game changer. Adopt a research-driven approach. Instead of generic networking, do your homework. Before you meet someone, spend 5 minutes looking them up. What are they working on? What challenges have they mentioned on LinkedIn? And then match your value to their actual needs. For example, instead of saying, "I'd love to connect," you can say, "I saw your post about entering new markets, and I have some experience with regulatory hurdles in that space. I'd be happy to share what I learned." Now you're leading with a solution, not a request. You're approaching as a problem solver, which immediately establishes you as a valuable connection rather than just another person looking for something. Fake networking might feel efficient in the moment, collecting cards, making quick asks, but it's a short-term strategy with long-term consequences. It burns through social capital instead of building it. Genuine connection, on the other hand, is an investment. It takes more effort up front, but it pays compounding interest throughout your career. The goal isn't to build a bigger network. It's to become the kind of person others want in their network. When you focus on providing value first, on following through reliably, and on building real relationships, you stop having to ask for opportunities. Instead, opportunities find you because people know you, they trust you, and they want to see you succeed. Your next professional interaction is a chance to start building this way. Go in with curiosity, lead with value, and focus on the relationship, not the transaction. That's all for today. Remember, we're looking for progress, not perfection. Be sure to visit speakingwithconfidencepodcast.com to get your free ebook, The Top 21 Challenges for Public Speakers and How to Overcome Them. You can also register for the Formula for Public Speaking course. Always remember, Your voice has the power to change it. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.